Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. I hope you had a really nice holiday, uneventful, peaceful, calm, all that. I did, and no drama. No drama in my book is like fabulous, right? So let's get started. First of all, next week, it'll be next year, and soon it will be winter semester. And just a couple things to let you know about. We are offering cardiovascular disease and nutrition, immune function and nutrition, and psychology 1. And our psychology teacher is incredible. Even if you already took college psychology, you might want to consider this. Of course, the diet and lifestyle course, which we offer every semester, it's the 15-session overview that it's designed for health professionals, but we probably have 20% of the students are not health professionals. They just want to learn about women's health, men's health, children's health, autoimmune diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, etc. So we're offering that. In January, I'm doing a cancer boot camp backed by popular demand, and then I'm doing a women's health intensive on February 25th and 26th. So if any of that interests you, then you want to send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. All right, so for some health news today, I'm going to start with some bad news. Over half of people who live to be age 85 or older will develop dementia or Alzheimer's disease. This, by the way, is not normal. It's new. It doesn't go on all over the world. It's particularly prevalent here and in other westernized countries. There was no Alzheimer's disease reported in the United States until the early 20th century. In fact, the first case study was published in 1907 by German psychiatrist Alois Alzheimer. That's how the name Alzheimer's disease was coined. The incidence of Alzheimer's disease, just to put this myth to bed, is not increasing because we're living longer. Most reported increases in longevity are due to the statistical effect of reducing infant mortality. Now, to be clear, the United States still lags behind dozens of other countries in this area, but there was a big enough reduction to push the average age at death up significantly. So what causes Alzheimer's disease if it's new and it's not simply getting older? Well, it's a diet and lifestyle induced condition most of the time, and therefore, like other chronic conditions, is preventable. And one key to prevention is the E word that nobody wants to talk about, but this is as good a time as any because it's time to get moving after all the holiday stuff. Exercise. And one of the mechanisms of action for exercise is that physical activity affects the brain's immune cells, which results in lowered inflammation in the brain, in addition to increasing the production of brain-derived neurotropic factor, which also improves brain function. Now, microglia are immune cells in the brain which clear away debris and dying cells that result from injury or infection. These cells also stimulate the production of new neurons, which communicate with other cells, a process called neurogenesis that's involved in learning and memory. Microglia shift from a resting state to an activated state in order to do their jobs. When signals from pathogens or damaged cells activate the microglia, they produce pro-inflammatory molecules. And by the way, all inflammation is not bad. Some inflammation is needed, and in this case, it's needed to repair damage to resolve infection or injury. Now, as people age, if they don't take really great care of themselves, their microglia can lose the ability to shift from a pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory state, and this can contribute to neurodegeneration and even eventually to Alzheimer's disease. A recently published study looked at this issue as it pertains to the ability of exercise to prevent this. And it included 167 men and women who were participants in the Rush Memory and Aging Project, which endeavored to determine the factors that influence brain health as people age. Now, the physical activity part of it was monitored by a wearable fitness tracker, and regular assessment of cognitive function and fitness markers like muscle strength and walking speed were measured. The participants agreed to donate their brains for analysis after death as part of the study, too. Researchers could thus look at the microglia, the presence of plaques, measure the synaptic proteins in the brain. Synapses are integral for the transmission of information, and they're a marker for brain function and cognition. The participants were an average of age 86 when monitoring of physical activity began, and averaged 90 years of age when they died. 1/3 had no cognitive impairment, 1/3 had mild cognitive impairment, and 1/3 had developed dementia. Analysis of their brains showed that 60% of all subjects had signs of Alzheimer's disease, such as amyloid plaques. But as this study and many others have shown, plaques are not necessarily predictive of cognitive decline or Alzheimer's disease. Alone, they are not the cause. There are other contributing factors, which is why I question the imaging that's done to determine whether or not there are plaques. Now, the younger the participants, the more physically active they were. That just makes sense, and the better their motor function. Levels of physical activity were related to lower microglial activation in some regions of the brain, including those involved in memory and recall. And this remained true even for subjects who had signs of Alzheimer's disease in their brain. Again, the plaques are not the tell-all here. Subjects with more microglial activation tended to have greater cognitive decline and lower levels of synaptic protein. This shows that physical activity can reduce the negative effects of inflammation on the brain that can lead to Alzheimer's disease. Now, to be clear, there are limitations to this study. It was observational and prospective rather than interventional, where you'd have a group that exercised and a group that didn't, a control group. But other observational studies have shown similar results, and we know that exercise is good for everyone, and we understand a lot about the mechanisms of action. There's another thing about exercise that I want to mention too, as it pertains to aging, and that is that I think one of the things we probably all learned, we knew it before, but boy, was it really apparent in the last 22 months, is that you do not want to end up in a nursing home. And the biggest reason why people go there, in addition to memory, is because they lose physical strength. They don't have balance, coordination, and strength. They can't tie their shoes. They can't pick up a box and carry it up the stairs and load the washing machine and that sort of thing. They become frail. And so the only way to not become frail, really, is you have to build strength. And so the younger you are when you start doing it, the stronger you'll be and the more likely you'll be able to live in your house. I love my home. I'm very fortunate to live in the place that I do. I want to live here until I die. I mean, I'm open to the possibility of moving at some point in time, but the bottom line is I want to live independently until I die. And if you aspire to do that, you're going to need two things: physical strength and an intact mind. And exercise is one of the very important ways you get both. All right, well, that's all for now. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.